Hi, I'm Debra Lynn Dadd. Welcome to this webinar sponsored by EnviroKlenz. I'm hoping that you can all hear me. George, could you just give me a little answer over in the chat window so that I can see, because I'm just talking and I don't have any responses, so I don't know. I'm going to assume that you're hearing me and say hello and welcome. And today we're going to be talking about air filters. We're going to be talking about why you need one and all about the EnviroKlenz products that have amazing new technology that will help you remove odors and toxic chemicals and molds and all kinds of things from the air in your home. Next. I know that Kyle can hear me because the slide changed, so this is great. All right, so I recovered from MCS, and I know that a lot of you listening today have been dealing with MCS in your own lives. And I recovered from MCS by reducing my exposure to toxic chemicals in my home. This was more than 30 years ago, and when I encountered this in my life, I said, well, if toxic chemicals are making me sick, then where are these toxic chemicals in my home? And they're in all kinds of consumer products, as most of you know. And when I made a very concerted effort to remove those toxic chemicals, my symptoms went away one by one. Like I used to get really bad headaches, and it turned out to be from the perfume that I was wearing. And I couldn't sleep at night, and it was from the formaldehyde on the permanent press sheets that I was wearing. And so one by one, I just started eliminating these chemicals, and my health improved. And now I can travel, I can go out, I can do things as long as I come back to my non-toxic home. Now, the reason that I think that everybody needs an air purifier, and if you've read any of my books, you may think, why is she saying this? Because I've said in books in the past that I think that air purifiers aren't always necessary, but I've changed my position on that over the years, because while I think that the #1 thing to do is always remove toxic things at the source, there really are things that it's very, very difficult to avoid. And the more that you can remove the toxic chemicals from your environment, the faster your body's going to heal. And here's some of the reasons why you need an air purifier. Because you can't remove 100% of the air pollutants at the source. You could if you were living on a mountaintop and you had a very non-industrial kind of life. But even if you have something like a television, if you have something like a computer or a printer, those are pollutants that you can't remove at the source. And so there's something that you need to do about that. And also, unless you remove your shoes at the door, you're tracking pollutants into your home. They stick to the soles of your shoes. If you walk across the grass, you're probably bringing pesticides and things like that in the house. And while you can remove your shoes at the door, you may have the cable TV guy come in or something like that. And that people are going to come in, your guests are going to come in, and there'll be chemicals. And also, people just may come into your home with perfume or cigarette smoke on your clothing, and there's really no alternative unless you just not having these things in your house. You would have to say, nobody can come in your home. There's just all kinds of unexpected kinds of things, and you want to be ready for that. I've had people, even though I tell people, no smoking in my house, no perfume in my house, still something happens. And occasionally people come in. I've had neighbors spraying pesticides. I've had barbecue lighter fluid come in from down the street. I think you all know what I'm talking about here. And I had a repairman come in to fix my computer, and he was wearing clothing with detergent that had such a scent on it that I was really happy that I just had my air filter right there and I could just turn it on. So you get protected from things like that. Next. I've been looking at air filters for more than 30 years. And when I saw this new EnviroKlenz, I was so excited to see it, because for years and years, it's been all the same technologies. And this is a new technology. And as Kyle's going to explain to you later, it really is very specific to removing chemicals. And it's not just me, this is not just my opinion. I wanted to also tell you that one of my readers, Stephanie, wrote to me a couple of days ago. She sent me an email and she says, I want to make sure that you have my story before the EnviroKlenz webinar. And she wrote me a whole story about how she had a compact fluorescent light bulb full of mercury explode. Now, ordinarily, she wouldn't put that in her house to begin with, but her husband did that unexpectedly. So it exploded, and it had a horrible odor, and it still was lingering a couple of days later. And she had, now she's been dealing with MCS for about 20 years, so she has tried every air filter there is practically. And she had 2 air filters, and she was running them 24 hours a day, and they weren't doing anything for this odor. And she wrote to me and she says, the EnviroKlenz is by far the best air filter we've ever had. And it was the only one that cleared up this horrible odor from the burnt out compact fluorescent bulb. So this is not the only story I've ever heard like this. And it's an interesting technology. It's unique, it's better. If you've tried other air filters in the past and felt that they didn't work, this is completely different. It's completely different. Next. I've also used other EnviroKlenz products, and they all work together as a system. Kyle will tell you about this, to be able to remove odors from the air, from surfaces, from clothing, in the laundry, off the walls. Every place that there might be odors or chemicals in your home, there's an EnviroKlenz product in order to handle that. And so I'd just like to introduce Kyle now, who is going to tell us all about the technology. Oh, you know what? But I have more to say. Yes, I'm going to tell you about how air pollution affects your health. Okay, so indoor air pollution is the nation's #1 health problem. And this is a statement made by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And they have measured, I remember when this first came out, maybe 25 years ago, and until then, the EPA was only measuring outdoor air. And then something happened and they started measuring the indoor air, and when people were wearing little monitors, and they were shocked to find out that indoor air pollution can be 100 times worse than outdoor air pollution, and it's because of all these toxic products that people are using in their homes. Yes? So half of all illnesses, half, can be aggravated or caused by polluted indoor air. And so the quality of your indoor air can impact your health far more than outdoor air. And I would just really say that if you are concerned about your health, as I know all of you are, having an air filter can, within minutes sometimes, or a little bit longer, if you have an exposure, an air filter like this can clean it up. I don't want to say instantaneously. I think it took a few hours for Stephanie's to clean up, but it's because, well, I don't want to go into all the technology of that, but the point being that if you need to be in a clean environment, an air filter, the proper air filter that is right for the pollutants that is in your home and actually does a good job, can, within a short period of time, remove those toxic chemicals, even if you don't have the time or money or ability to change the source, the products that are in your house. An air filter can clean up any space that's enclosed in a very short period of time. So next, health effects from toxic chemicals in the home, from air pollution, can be both immediate and long-term. Next. Some of the immediate effects can include irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, asthma, hypersensitivity, I can't pronounce this one, pneumonitis, and But in fact, what I know all of us know is that it's not limited to this list of symptoms, because if you're chemically sensitive, almost any symptom can be associated with any chemical. So what a air filter like the EnviroKlenz can do is remove a broad spectrum of pollutants so that you have more protection against having a reaction. Next. And long-term effects can include respiratory diseases, heart disease, and cancer, as well as many other illnesses. Next. So it's important to improve indoor air quality even if you have no noticeable symptoms. And I think that all of you listening here have some symptoms, but you may be surrounded by people who say, well, I don't have any symptoms, there's nothing wrong with this environment. But because of the long-term effects, like an example would be cigarette smoking, that you could smoke and smoke and smoke and maybe not have any symptoms, and then 30 years later get cancer, and that's exactly the way it works. And so it's best to be prudent. I think that everybody in the world should be concerned about their exposure to toxic chemicals, because you might not see the effects right away, but they are affecting everybody's health. And that doing the right things in your home can benefit other people in your family or people that you may be living with, as well as yourself. It's a good thing to do for everyone. Next. So fortunately, unlike outdoor air, the quality of our indoor air at home is something that all of us can control. Each one of us can say, I'm going to take charge of my indoor air quality and remove pollutants at the source and have an air filter. So I'm going to tell you next about the indoor air pollutants, because this is a really important thing, because you need to have the right kind of air purifier to remove the pollutants in your air. Next. Air pollutants fall into three main classes. Now, it's particles, gases, and microorganisms. And particles are things like bits of pollen and dust and mold and animal dander. But the thing about particles is that they also act as carriers of gases, which is the next category. And so not only is, Kyle, can you go back one? Yeah, so particles will carry the gases, piggyback on the back of the particles. And so they can greatly contribute to indoor air pollution. These particles can increase your chemical exposure. Now, when I first started learning about air filters over 30 years ago, we thought that particles were particles and gases were gases. And it wasn't until some new research was done some years ago that they found that if there's particles, there's also gases. If they're both in the room, they're going to be together in the particle. So it used to be that people with MCS would say, oh, I'm interested in gases and I don't care about particles. And that's just not the case. You need to be concerned about both. And then the third category is microorganisms. And so you really need to have a filter that removes both particles and gases. Next. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a survey of air filters that were online. I just typed in air filter and air purifier, and I was looking to see what was on the market now. And virtually all of the ones that came up on the first couple of pages of Google, all they removed were particles. And you really had to read the fine print in the descriptions of these air filters, but it was only particles. And if somebody wanted to remove gases, like we're all interested in removing, because those VOCs are volatile organic chemicals, then you need to have a unit that removes both particles and gases. Next. So EnviroKlenz specializes in removing gases. Gases is what they're concerned about. They're concerned about the gases of chemicals and the gases of odors and removing them from air, surfaces, and laundry. So this is primarily, their products are primarily oriented to gases, and particles are secondary, which is exactly the opposite of most products, most air filters on the market. Okay, now it's time to introduce Kyle. So I've known Kyle for a couple of years. He's been on Toxic Free Talk Radio with me, and he knows a lot about this technology. So Kyle, I'm just going to let you take it from here.
Hello, thank you, Deborah, for having me today. I'm really pleased to be on this show with you. I think you brought up a lot of really good points, and I think I'm going to be able to expand on that as we start talking about the EnviroKlenz system, products, and most importantly, the air quality related, air quality issues related to our personal environmental spaces. So today I'm going to go over, some of the different chemicals that are in our environment. There's a lot of really good reasons to have good indoor air quality, and being a chemically sensitive individual, or if someone is chemically sensitive, the importance of good indoor air quality is absolutely magnified. We heard your story and how you Deborah, minimize those sorts of things, and that's really what our EnviroKlenz system approach is to do. It's to improve the air quality in frankly in our daily lives. And we're going to go through several slides here today, but I really want to focus in on how we can do this, the importance of different things, the different concerns, the different things for us to think about, but also share some stories that we've heard from customers. We'll also check in with a customer and hear a story directly from her. So when it comes to the different air quality concerns that we may have, some of them just stem from different things that we can do in our daily lives, or things that we maybe aren't doing, such as having improperly maintained air systems, just letting airborne dust and particles collect. As Debra Lynn Dadd pointed out, dust and particles, come from pretty much just about anything in our daily lives. We bring them in, but they also themselves can be a mechanism for controlling and containing other things that can off gas and become more problematic down the road. We've got different volatile organic compounds and hydrocarbons, and these things like irregular maintenance. They can add up to things like excessive moisture in homes, uneven circulation, which really just starts to compound and make things more problematic. You've got your mold issues that can arise, and mold itself is a problem, but they themselves generate a whole bunch of different VOC compounds, in addition to other VOC compounds that we may have exposure to in our daily lives, and different hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbon is just a carbon and hydrogen molecules. VOCs have other functional groups on them. The different products that we use, on any given day, daily basis, cleaning chemicals, laundry detergents, all these things contain, different compounds and chemicals, corrosive compounds that are just all adding up to poor indoor air quality. And Deborah made an excellent point right before she introduced me. Indoor air quality is something that we can do and we can take control of in our daily lives. We may not be able to necessarily control where we live, where we work. We can to some degree, but when you're at home, you really can take control of what you bring into your homes and how you treat your home, and the systems that you have in place to address those. Because within our household, we have a lot of different chemicals. We've got things like that are contributing to negative air quality, like pressed wood products that that contain formaldehyde, and homes that are 30, 40 years old have a high concentration of these types of chemicals, because those pressed wood formaldehyde products have a lot of those chemicals and compounds in them. Carpets harbor a lot of different VOCs because of the different glues and dyes that are present. We've got a lot of ethers, terpenes, from air fresheners and cleaning solutions that we've got within our homes. I mean, I know, within my own home, I have young children. We try to absolutely minimize the chemicals, the cleaning products. The few cleaning products and chemicals we have are stored, you know, out in the shed, away from the kids. We try to keep them out of the home, but these things still get drug in. They get brought in on your clothing. They get brought into your home on your shoes. And pesticides, you know, one of the, you know, it's a kind of one of the necessities, unfortunately, of our society today. They help reduce other types of disease by insects, you know, that are spread by insects and those sorts of things. But, you know, they are very dangerous. You don't really want them, you know, in your homes. These are chemicals and compounds that affect, you know, your nervous system. But when people look at what types of chemicals are in homes, you know, a very high percentage of homes are going to have some form of pesticides that have been used in, on, or around them, and they often can be at levels that are very dangerous to people that are chemically sensitive, that have low immune system, children and pets in particular because of their lower body weight. And then also fragrances. You know, these occur in so many different products around our homes. And fragrances is you know, kind of a class of chemicals, fragrances and perfumes that, you know, it's a chemistry issue in terms of there's a whole bunch of different chemicals and compounds involved in them. It's not just one or two chemicals. You know, it's a mixture of essential oils, aromatic compounds, solvents. You may have some natural or synthetic sources of these sorts of things, but esters, terpenes, amines, alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, thiols are just some of the things, you know, that, to name a few of them, that are present. And you know, the other thing that's really interesting is a lot of the big companies out there that make, you know, some of the common laundry detergents and fragrance products that people have, you know, they don't have to fully disclose what all those different chemicals are. Those are often protected as industry and trade secrets. So we may not know all the different types of chemicals or compounds that are coming into our house because of those. And these are all the things that really led us here at EnviroKlenz to wanting to branch out and really help folks that have chemical sensitivities or just issues with chemicals and perfumes in general. We have a technology that is, you know, very good at, you know, breaking down toxic chemicals in all sorts of different forms. And you know, when someone is especially sensitive to, you know, chemical pollutants in the air, or have a variety of different, you know, symptoms or issues related to different types of chemicals, you know, we said, well, our technology is really good at breaking down harmful chemicals. We know we can work against these things, and we know that they're everywhere, that people are being exposed to them. Let's utilize this technology and really bring it to help people that you know, can't, you know, be around these sorts of things. And that's what we really truly developed. And we developed this EnviroKlenz system to be a process that can address those fragrances, pollutants, and the different chemical contaminations that we have in our air spaces, on our surfaces, on our personal belongings, our contents, our clothing. And we wanted to have different products and different systems that used both independently, but more importantly, collectively, can create a cleaner air environment. So, you know, in essence, what we are doing is we're wanting to eliminate these indoor environmental sensitivity triggers, these things that folks just cannot be around. And we have been very successful in helping folks who are some of the most sensitive out there to different chemicals in our world. Now, Debra brought up some of the things related to particle filtration with air filters. Now, I've got a chart here that shows you kind of going from smallest particles on the left to larger particles on the right. You know, the different types of things that are generally kind of in our daily environment. We've got the hair, the different spores, pollen, dust, bacteria, smoke compounds, chemical fumes, and you can kind of see the different ranges in which these encompass. Well, traditional particle filtration and HEPA filtration can easily catch, you know, some of those larger particles, and not necessarily the chemicals that may be riding them, but they can catch those particles. But some of the things that most of the chemically sensitive folks out there are concerned with, though, are over here, this big area of those smaller particles that are in smoke, chemical fumes, odor molecules, perfumes, and fragrances. What do we do, or how can we effectively address these? Well, that's what can be done with our EnviroKlenz technology. Our technology utilizes a variety of both physical and chemical mechanisms to capture and destroy chemical pollution. Our active components that are in our EnviroKlenz products have numerous surface sites which can both attract and, depending upon the chemistries, they can ultimately break down different chemicals and pollutants. So the capabilities are quite impressive and extensive. And this is all done through a patented process that we have that can convert these metal oxides, these earth minerals, into active forms, yet this process maintains and retains all the safety benefits of these earth minerals. So it's a combination of that process which imparts an increased surface area onto these unique materials to enhance the chemical reactivity, the porosity of the materials, and altogether this contributes to the broad and enhanced adsorptive neutralization abilities of our EnviroKlenz products. Now, kind of an analogy that I like to use to kind of describe this process is, let's say we had some delicious butter and we wanted to spread that out over some popcorn. Well, you have unpopped popcorn kernels, which still in the kernel form, or the exact same amount of popcorn, but that's been popped. Well, if you can increase that surface area, you can better attach on to that butter and be a better mechanism for grabbing onto that, and just you're exposing that extra surface area, and it's much more effective. And in the case of movie popcorn, it's going to be much more delicious. So the different types of chemicals that the EnviroKlenz technology is going to be effective against includes a whole host of different chemical classes, from esters, terpenes, aromatic compounds, alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, thiols, which is behind that skunk odor smell. You've got your sulfur compounds. But what's important is, as someone is dealing with different chemical sensitivities and trying to reduce their exposure to these different types of things, the ones that they're going to most commonly be familiar with are the things that have the strong scents, and these can be things that trigger some of their types of symptoms. Your perfumes, your cleaning agents, pesticides, all those sorts of things are compounds or mixtures of compounds that EnviroKlenz is going to be effective against. And that's what we've designed our products to do, is to address a whole host of different chemicals in combination with each other, because we know that scents and fragrances aren't always going to be a specific chemical or chemical class. We know that we need to be able to attack them all collectively. And what's really unique and interesting about our technology and the way it works is, we're not using just one chemical mechanism here to go after these chemicals. The materials in the EnviroKlenz products, they can break down organic acids through acid-base reactions. They can work on inorganics through formation of, harmless metal salts and waters. We can adsorb different compounds. We can, attack things like carbonyl carbon atoms and aldehydes and ketones, and we can neutralize acids or caustics, or even things like oxidizers, chlorine gas. I have a customer testimonial I'll be sharing about chlorine gas later. So what's nice about these things is they're effective against different classes, and they work in different ways to make it an effective solution. And here's some experiments that were done just to kind of show you a handful of different classes that EnviroKlenz was working against. What's important is that we're getting good efficacy and absorptive neutralization against a broad array of chemical classes and compounds, where more traditional absorbents, may be able to do something in one category, but they completely ignore other categories. So what we want to do is, the best way that we can improve and quickly impact our personal environment is by utilizing the products that can treat the airspace. And our EnviroKlenz system has been adapted in 2 different ways to do that. The first one is through standalone units like the EnviroKlenz mobile air system. And the second is through the use of filtration, across the whole house, in an HVA system. So that's one way that we have adapted this technology to immediately and positively impact our personal environment space, is by addressing the indoor air quality. Now, some of the different technologies that are out there that we often get asked about or compared to are carbon filters or machines that put out hydroxyls, ozones, or scented products and fragrances. Well, what we did is we've done a whole host of tests, but I really like this one in particular because it illustrates several different things all at once. Number one is here with the blue line. You have the speed of which the EnviroKlenz cartridges can work. And in this instance, it was placed in a room, and high amounts of hydrogen sulfide, which is a corrosive, smelly, and dangerous gas, was released into the environment. And we repeated these tests with all sorts of different devices. And within minutes, the EnviroKlenz technology was able to mitigate that, completely remove it, and neutralize it, which is what's really important, where these other technologies struggled to reduce the concentrations of these gases. And with some of the technologies, they weren't actually neutralizing or breaking down that hydrogen sulfide gas at all. The masking agents were just covering it up, hoping that it dissipates over time. The same thing even with some of the ozone and hydroxyl and carbon products. They just didn't have the chemistry ability to break down and neutralize it. In the case of this experiment, looking back at the expanded details of it, some of these technologies, went hours and approached multiple days where we were still detecting that gas, where the EnviroKlenz just knocked it out and neutralized it within minutes. Very effective and fast process that, depending upon the size of the room, is going to start neutralizing that. So one of the things that is, going back to those devices that put out ozone or hydroxyls, and we've tested ionizers and all sorts of things, is one of our philosophies here at EnviroKlenz is it really is counterproductive to be adding chemicals, odors, and fragrances into the air when our goal is ultimately to eliminate them and get them out of our personal environmental space. Some of the other products and technologies that are out there include, traditional pleated air filters. And we looked at those as well and compared it to the EnviroKlenz HVAC air filter. And what we saw was our product, again here in the blue line, was able to many times faster than some commercial products, some brand names that you're going to recognize that you can get at any big box store. And these are ones that are sold or designed in theory in those big box stores to neutralize odors, and they have technologies and brands that we've all heard of, but they just didn't have the performance capabilities and, more importantly, the speed and capacity that we got with the EnviroKlenz system. So it's really nice to be able to have something that we can bring in, treat the whole house air, or have the portable system that can move room to room to reduce a whole bunch of different chemicals simultaneously. This is a particular experiment that happened in a home where they had high levels of total VOCs, a whole host of them they're coming out into the home. And what we did was we placed a portable air system with the EnviroKlenz cartridge in there, and we actually were monitoring this for a period of quite some time. But in this experiment, I wanted to show you the speed, and in fact, the total VOCs were actually off the chart. Imagine this chart running up through the roof of your house or your your wherever you happen to be right now. And just looking in and zooming in on this, as you can see, within the matter of hours, we brought those total VOC levels down into the trace part per billion levels from high part per million levels. So the speed of it, you know, in these homes, when you have a mobile system in place, is very quick and rapid. Now, another example, which is, this is actually one of my favorites, is we had a home that was actually an individual who was chemically sensitive was going to be moving into this home. And, you know, she couldn't do it because it was a recently built home, and it was constantly putting off and continually off-gassing chemicals and compounds. And we had the opportunity to work with her and her contractor. And what we did was we utilized a mobile system and a whole house treatment with the EnviroKlenz HVAC air cartridge. And we monitored both the first floor of the home and the basement for total VOCs over a period of time. And in less than 30 days, we had basically brought those things down to nothing. And that may not seem like the world's fastest time period, but what's really important to remember is this was a home that was continually off-gassing these chemicals and compounds, and we were able to, you know, help her out. You know, this wasn't environmental pollution or things that were being, you know, brought into her home. This was the actual materials in her home that were off-gassing from recently painted paint and primers and sealers. And it was really quite impressive to witness the improvement firsthand in that home. I'd now like to really show you, you know, it's important to see the data and the technology behind it, but I'd like for you to hear from, you know, one of our customers directly. And I'm going to go ahead and connect up here. It may take just a moment to load, but please bear with me. Okay, thank you. And that is a good point. You know, this technology is there designed to positively impact, you know, our environments and make the environments that we're in a lot better and more livable. Now, the technology that we are most often compared to or asked about is carbon filtration. And we wanted to go ahead and kind of address here today a little bit about, you know, why that is and some of the reasons why the EnviroKlenz technology offers advantages over that. Carbon, as you know, one of the most common materials used for odor control applications, but it does have some disadvantages, and primarily those disadvantages are focused around carbon only does physiabsorption, which ultimately means that this is a technology that may bring in a chemical compound, but it can just as easily release that chemical compound back into the environment. Things like humidity changes, temperature changes, are key to that process. And I've seen, you know, some interesting marketing ploys around that where these products will often say, you know, it can be regenerated by you know, increasing the temperature or something like that. Well, that's just because it can off-gas it, and that's just a way to off-gas it more, you know, quicker. So that's one of the limitations, and a big limitation of carbon is it doesn't have those active sites and it doesn't have the different mechanisms available to it to actually break down and neutralize those chemicals and different compounds. Here's a particular compound of interest because it's very prevalent in home VOC compounds. It's in cigarette smoke, and that is acetaldehyde. And in this particular graph, you actually want the lines to go up to show percent removed, percent absorbed. And as you can see, EnviroKlenz has very fast kinetics and can absorb that very quickly, whereas commercial sorbents, activated carbons, or just bulk carbon materials don't have that speed or efficacy or that ability to actively break them down and neutralize them. This next compound is pyroxene. It is chemically, it essentially is a pesticide, and it is effective against it affects our nervous system. And this is a compound that if you have this free floating around in your home, you absolutely want to eliminate it. And as you can see, the EnviroKlenz technology, again, a very different chemistry than acetaldehyde or alcohols or ketones. But here we have, a phosphorus and nitrogen style of compound that we very quickly and with great speed absorb and can break this chemical compound down. So the key thing that we've now seen with these different charts and different testimonials and stories that we've heard is, so how do we deploy this? How do we deploy this science in a way that will be the most effective in our personal environments? Well, and that's what we at EnviroKlenz really like to think about, is that total system approach. Let's treat the airspace. Let's get that going right away to get things out of the air so they don't redeposit onto different surfaces or contents. Then let's also treat those different surfaces that are in our space. Let's treat our personal items, the things that we can wash, treat, clean, so that we can address all of these different things. First way, of course, is through the airspace treatment, which is our mobile air system and our HVAC air cartridges. So get these things in place, get them going, get those chemicals and pollutants that are in our air and neutralize them, and you're doing it in a way that we're not adding any chemicals, fragrances, or perfumes back into the environment. Well, once you get going with that process, then you can start doing a couple other things with the surfaces in your home. And I had a customer who was and who has multiple chemical sensitivity, and in her case, she had was in a position where she had customers and clients coming into her home and office, and she had one in particular where this person had a lot of perfume, and she said this was getting deposited onto her different furniture, her surfaces, and she was able to deploy the EnviroKlenz Everyday Odor Eliminator to neutralize those sorts of things, because as a chemically sensitive individual, she couldn't have those things lingering around, and she was running into this issue time and time again. I had another another MCS customer who had a different environmental problem. She had pet issues that were really contaminating her vehicle, and she was utilizing the granular product in her car to absorb different odors, because a lot of the products that are in cars that people have are actually just putting out perfumes and fragrances. And she told us that she actually had many different uses for this granular product, not just in her car, but around her home, was utilizing the laundry additive to treat her the dog bedding, because she had a lot of pets. She was really, and the pets were bringing in different chemicals and pollution. So we start thinking about that. We are going out into the world. We're bringing a lot of things back on our clothing. We have family, people, pets that are bringing these things into our personal environment. Let's get treating the airspace. Let's treat our surfaces. Let's treat the contents. And that ultimately is what's going to give us a better personal environmental space. And one of the things that I'm pretty excited about actually with this webinar is the program that our corporate office put together to offer today's attendees is we're going to actually have together a packaged system and a package bundle, because this is the way I really think that we should be doing this, and that we need to be treating our homes. This is how I do it. This is how the customers we're working with are doing it. Is you get the mobile air system, which normally is $650. Well, we're actually today offering that for $600. In addition to the great price break on the EnviroKlenz mobile air system, we're also going to be including in that bundle package our air system, a liquid laundry product, our source treatment product, and our odor neutralizer granules. So you get all 4 of these things for that one price delivered, and I really would highly recommend you take advantage of that, because this is going to be a extremely limited offer just for a couple of days. So I would get on that today if I were you. Additionally, we will be offering a discount on our website, but I highly recommend you take advantage of that bundled price. The pop-up offer that you see in your window, as well as the coupon code, will be good for a brief period of time. But please, I'm very excited about this offer. I really recommend you take advantage of it. I've never seen us offer these products at this price before. That being said, I'm sure some of you actually have some questions, and I'd like to turn it back over to our moderator, Debra Lynn Dadd, with some of those questions. I know some questions have been submitted throughout the broadcast. We had questions come in before we even took the air, and Debra,
yes, I'm here with questions. But first I want to say that to the listeners that we are planning to end on time at, well, it's 4 o'clock here on the East Coast where I am. We'll be ending at 4 o'clock. And I'm going to ask as many questions as I can between now and then. And any of the questions that you've submitted that we don't answer, they will be sent out in an email to people who are attending the webinar, so all questions will be answered. So let's get to the first one, and let's see how fast we can do them, Kyle. So the first question has to do with mold spores, especially on the surface. Which product would you use, and how would you clean mold spores?
Well, there's several different things that I would do related to mold issues and mold spores. Number one is the air treatment aspect of it. The mobile air system and the technology in the cartridge is extremely effective at neutralizing the different VOC compounds that are generated by mold. You know, they're releasing their own host of things, which everybody's kind of described as that moldy and musty scents and fragrances. The EnviroKlenz mobile air system and the HVAC cartridge that we have are very effective at treating those types of chemicals and compounds. Related to airborne mold spores, well, the EnviroKlenz mobile air system actually has a HEPA filtration, or has a HEPA filter in it, that multi-stage filtration that is available with both the particles and the gases that are being caught by our proprietary technology. Mold spores fall into the range of particle size that can be addressed by those filters. The next thing I would also recommend is if you do have an extensive mold problem, to utilize proper mold remediation company to address the issues, because often mold problems do stem from water leakages or something that you want to properly address to take care of the infrastructure problem behind it.
I totally agree with that, taking care of the infrastructure. I had pipes leaking in my bathroom, and I had to rip out all the walls and floors and have the guys in the hazmat suits come and clean up my mold. And now I have a very watertight bathroom. So here's the next question. I would like to have no lingering odors in my vehicle, but haven't found anything that doesn't leave its own odor. So can any of your products help with vehicle odor?
Yes, absolutely. A couple of them in particular, of course, are EnviroKlenz everyday odor eliminator is actually the perfect product for that type of situation. I actually happen to be helping a customer over the past few days with this exact problem. It was a combination of both new odor smells and chemicals that were used just to try to clean it, because I guess it was a leased vehicle that was going to be, repurposed for this particular customer. Well, the EnviroKlenz Everyday Odor Eliminator, it's a excellent product for that situation, because you can apply it to the different soft surfaces, the carpets, the floor mats, even the headliner. The headliner harbors quite a few odors and chemicals and fragrances as well. That could be, sprayed or applied or sponged on there and then removed with, traditional, cleaning extractors, those sorts of things. And best of all, as I mentioned during earlier portion of today's program, all of the EnviroKlenz products are fragrance-free. There's no added fragrances. We're not using masking agents or perfumes. So I would recommend the EnviroKlenz Everyday Odor Eliminator, which is one of the products in the bundle I mentioned. And then the next one is the EnviroKlenz, the absorbent odor neutralizer granules. That's a great product for cleaning up different things, not only in the car, but around the home, because it's a granule that can be spread out. It can then be vacuumed up, it can be swept up, and it's going to seek out those bulk liquids and vapors, and it's going to want to neutralize them. I've heard, I think I may have even mentioned it during the show, a customer that was using it in her car, I don't know if I explained, but she was actually like putting them in, little dishes or sachet bags or something to help just absorb those odors. So those are the two in the car that can be easily deployed for a wide variety of odors.
That's a great idea to put the granules in a sachet bag. In fact, I think I don't have a brand new car, but I think I still have some new car smell going on, and I'm going to try that myself. So let's see, here's another question. There's a woman here who has used some of the laundry enhancer and the everyday odor eliminator, and she wants to try the mobile unit. And she's pretty confident that she won't react to the technology, but if she does, can she return the unit?
Oh, absolutely. And I apologize if I didn't mention that earlier. We do have a 100% satisfaction guarantee with our products. And one of the great things that I'm sure everybody on the call today will like to hear is I don't think we've had to actually ever utilize that, because our customers are very happy and satisfied with our products and technology. It really does do what the science says it will do. And we've helped many customers for now a number of years with these problems, and they'll be very satisfied.
And I've also been recommending this product since it first came out, and I have not had one complaint from one customer.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story earlier today. That was excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent to hear that story.
And it just, I was looking at the science of it and also experiencing the unit. And but you don't always know just to look at a chart or something. You have to, really, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. That when you actually experience this unit, and if you have a problem like Stephanie had, where here suddenly this chemical odor is invading her house, this was the unit that handled it when the other ones didn't, and that's, I'm very impressive.
Yeah, I actually had another customer who had in Chicago, where she had issues with chlorine and just exhaust odors coming up into her apartment, and she said it worked wonderfully. It really is one of those things that when you get to experience it, get to use it for a few days, you'll really understand how the technology is truly different.
It is truly different. And the thing that I really want to emphasize, you did such a great job explaining it, but I think that the punchline about this is that the technology is actually destroying the chemical. It's coming into contact with the technology, the chemicals coming into coming into contact with the technology, and then the chemical is gone. It's broken down. It's no longer there. It's not being collected in a unit like with a carbon unit. It's like it's gone. gone, disappears. And I just think about, you know, all these chemicals floating around in the air, and they come in contact with the technology, and then poof, they're gone. And I think that's why it works so well, because it's just a totally different idea than the traditional carbon filters. Totally.
Yeah, that absorptive neutralization technology is, you know, you're going to prevent then the re-emission of those compounds. And, you know, again, that's a drawback of the carbon filter technology. And, you know, we're happy to, you know, have that solution to what's been really a long-standing problem.
It is a very long-standing problem, and it's getting more widespread every day. More people are being affected by it. So let me ask you 2 more questions. So what are the benefits of using both the unit and the HVAC filter?
Well, they're simultaneously, I would take it as the context of that question. The key benefit there would be in the HVAC system, you know, you'll be treating a larger volume of air through that system. You know, you're going to be getting the air turning over in your home. You know, home systems vary quite regularly, but over the course of a few hours, you should turn over the air in your system or in your home with the HVAC system. But utilizing them both at the same time really is an extremely effective way when you're trying to bring down levels in a home, like we were with that customer that was trying to move into a home that was off-gassing things, because then you're treating the air kind of in multiple ways. One is through, of course, the system treating it, and as the air is flowing through your system, it's going to pass through our air cartridge and neutralize a lot of that. But the mobile system then is going to be, you know, you're going to want to put that either in one of 2 spots. It's either going to be where a known source is that you're wanting to treat, you know, in that room, or you're going to want to put it in the room where you're most worried about exposure, you know, for, you know, at that individual, maybe that's where you're living, or your, you know, kids or children or a baby happens to be, you know, keep it there so that we're treating that air, you know, at a higher turnover. A mobile system is not going to be able to turn over all the air in your home, but it is going to do a great job of turning the air over in a room. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the advantage of using both is you're treating a area of need very fast and effectively while simultaneously treating your home.
Yeah. Okay, actually now I want to ask you 2 more questions. So here's another one. Have many chemically sensitive people used your products, and what percentage were helped?
Well, a lot. I wouldn't be able to, I can't, unfortunately, I don't remember everybody's names, but I do remember a lot of the folks that I get to help with particularly interesting situations. We've had the EnviroKlenz line out now for a few months, and it has been extremely successful. I have more orders than I can think, and more testimonials and success stories than I can think of as well. And as I mentioned during the question about guarantee, I don't think we've ever had to deploy that. So it's been extremely successful on that. But just a brief little bit of backstory on that is we've actually been helping chemically sensitive individuals for much longer than the line of EnviroKlenz being out, because this is a line that we truly optimized for folks dealing with, you know, chemical triggers that are in the environment. But our technology has been around for longer than that in other applications, helping remove chemicals, odors, and pollutants. And it's actually some of the feedback we got from those customers using other products that we had that say, hey, you know, this worked great for me, and I'm chemically sensitive, and I, you know, wasn't expecting this to work that way, but it worked for me. And that's part of the reason we ultimately got into this total system approach with the EnviroKlenz line, is because for years we've been hearing story after story of it worked great and I'm chemically sensitive. Wow, you know, I wouldn't have imagined for it to not only get rid of an odor, a pollutant or contaminant, but I could be around it. And that ultimately led us down this path of really wanting to help folks that have had to go through this, like yourself had to go through at one point too.
I'm going to interrupt you because we promised to end off at 4, and it's almost 4, but I just had one last question, and somebody would like to give bundles for Christmas presents. So can one individual buy more than one bundle?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the offer is limited in time, but we are not limiting necessarily the number that is sold to a particular customer. So utilize the information that is contained here within our webinar and some of the post-webinar follow-up information that you can get, so that there's that direct link to buy the bundle for the webinar participants. There also is a code that can be utilized simply on our website, which is webinar, which applies to the various products if they're not interested in the bundle. Although again, I would strongly suggest the bundle to be the way to really deploy this product and technology.
Right, right. I mean, it's often better to do something like wipe off a surface or use granules rather than use an air filter that they've really thought this through to optimize each thing. Well, our time is up. Thank you so much, Kyle. I really learned so much, and you explained it really well how the technology works, and I totally recommend these products as I have since they first came out. And so if you're interested, today's a great day to buy.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. And for those of you that may still have unanswered questions, the chat room, my engineer tells me, will be left open for a few more minutes. So if you have some questions or things that you want answered, to please go ahead and submit them. Additionally, here's our contact information. You can always reach out to us that way. And anyway, thank you, Deborah, for having me and having this program today. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.